I put a poll in my Instagram broadcast channel on the topic that I should cover on today's episode. The one that won, and I'm so happy that it did, is mornings in the parks. I'm excited to chat about this because I really do love and appreciate mornings at Disney World. I feel like they are really important. But just as like a mom being at home, just mornings in general, I do feel like it kind of sets the tone for the whole day. While you can thankfully reset the day after lunch or nap time or head back to the resort, whatever the situation is. When the mornings do get off on the right foot, it's just a really good feeling when everything's going great. And the first question that popped up specifically about mornings in the parks in Disney World was how to spend early entry hour so it feels laid back but worth the early wake up. Hello, and welcome to the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. I'm your host, Dana Stanley, creator of Laid Back Magic. As a mom of 3, I know how tough it can be to find time to plan a Disney World trip that doesn't leave you feeling stressed or overwhelmed. That's why I'm here, to help moms like you create Disney vacations that feel even better than they look on paper. Here, we're not chasing perfection, but creating our next favorite memories. So whether you're brand new to Disney or looking to go deeper into the details, this podcast is your go-to for simple tips, mindset shifts, real-life trip recaps, and expert insights to make your trip magical and manageable. New episodes drop every Monday, so be sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment. Okay, let's dive in. First, I just want to go over this early entry. So it is only 30 minutes now. It used to be, back in the day, you got an extra hour. But what this is anyone staying at a Disney hotel gets the benefit or perk of being allowed to get into the parks 30 minutes earlier than everyone else. So if the official park opening is at 9 a.m., on-site guests will have access to early entry from 8:30 to 9. And depending on the park, some rides can start running even before that 8:30 mark. So it is like a huge benefit. But I understand that it's hard to make it feel laid back because you sometimes have to be waking up really early. So I want to take just a minute to separate the difference between early entry, which is say like that 8:30 to 9 window, and rope dropping. And we're going to cover rope drop from another question in a little bit, but I just wanted to clarify the difference in my mind of how I see them. Rope dropping is just the definition of when someone wants to be like first in line when the quote rope drops, meaning they are allowed to start walking into the park or getting in line for a ride. And it can be a really early wake up if you want to be one of those first people in line before early entry even starts. And I have made it known that I am not a fan of rope dropping in particular because it is not laid back to me at all. I don't like to wake up my kids on vacation. I have friends who just have really early risers. Rope dropping just makes sense, or their kids are older. It's not like that big of a deal. They're not cranky early in the morning like toddlers or something like that. For us, we usually get to the park right at early entry. We're scanning in like at 8:29. We're using truly just that 30 minutes. That's what I'm going to talk about right now, of making that 30 minutes feel as laid back as possible. And then in a different question, I'll go over true rope drop. So the number one thing to not do in this situation is to get in line for something that is going to get a really long wait later, like the really popular ones. In Magic Kingdom, most people are going to head to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Peter Pan's Flight, especially if you have little kids. If you are not ahead of those early entry people, i.e. rope droppers, do not go there because you are going to be kind of in the worst spot. You're going to be behind the rope droppers. You're going to be ahead of the people that can't use early entry. It's still going to suck up your whole early entry time. So like you could head to Peter Pan and maybe only have like a 20-25 minute wait, which sounds good. Like that is like a good wait time because it's pretty much steady 60 to 90 minutes all day long, depending on the time of year. That's great. We saved so much time in line, but it is such a huge bummer to make sure you're there for early entry and get on one ride. So what I like to do, unfortunately, is to spend extra money to avoid that, especially because of the age of my kids, and I have a double stroller, which I'd have to park. all of these things that I know eat up a lot of time, I will get a lightning lane for Peter Pan, and I will get a lightning lane for Seven Dwarfs if we want to ride that. That way, the 30 minutes of early entry, I can be super laid back and go to Winnie the Pooh with like a 5-minute wait. I can ride the teacups, which we're going to just like walk right on. I can go to the Barnstormer or Dumbo, or It's a Small World, which maybe I wouldn't do because that's just like a long ride. It just, not the wait, but like the actual ride is very long. But you get the idea. We can very calmly, enjoyably get on 3, maybe 4 rides during early entry versus 1. And then once the early entry is over at 9, I will head over to Peter Pan or Seven Dwarfs and scan into my lightning lane, and we're walking right on. It's just a wonderful laid back morning when you do it that way. And I want to tie this question into a comment that my friend wrote, who her kids are older, so they prefer to kind of sleep in, have a slow morning, hit the pool even, and then they'll go into the parks later in the day and stay late. And she made a joke of like, hey, what's it like? What are the mornings like? Because I've never been. And I do want to just make a case for mornings being great, not necessarily like 5, 6 a.m. I do love the mornings in Disney World for 3 main reasons. The first one is just statistically, wait times for everything are going to be their lowest in the morning from like 8 to 10 a.m. Then second, again, just stats wise, you're going to have less chance of rain in the morning versus the afternoon. Outdoor rides can shut down, things can just close for rain, and you're just going to have a little bit less chance of that happening in the morning versus the afternoon. And then the third reason is just like, I really love the vibes of the mornings is just like totally personal to me. Our favorite resort is the boardwalk, and just being on the boardwalk in the morning, walking to Epcot with the kids, and we have our coffees, that is just something I will remember until I'm 90 years old. No one, even around you, like the people around you aren't like crashing out yet. There's no like kids screaming. Your kids are in a good mood. And I do just really love the mornings in Disney World. Now, if you're going to be trying to keep this early entry as laid back as possible, it can go kind of either way. Maybe you have lightning lanes waiting for you and you're in zero rush to head anywhere. So you get to the park and you go grab coffee and you grab breakfast. That's usually not the best use of your time. I have done it, but if you really want to get as much magic out of the morning. I hate to use the word magic, but if you do want to get the most quote magic out of the morning, it's best that you've eaten breakfast before early entry, which leads me into the next question of quick breakfast ideas because they're hard to find. Like it is so dependent on where you're staying, how easy it is to just get a quick breakfast even on the go. Really, the easiest breakfast, in my opinion, is something that you're going to eat in the room. Get like your nutrition and like fullness while you're still at your resort and you haven't left yet. And then anything in the park is almost like a treat, like a second breakfast snack situation. I've really become such a stickler for this on our last 2 trips of like, we have to eat before we get to the park. And it's honestly mostly because of me, because if I am scrambling in the morning and maybe just like have a little bit of coffee, by the time we get to the park, I'm unwell. I am looking around like I need to eat something right this second. Again, that's a me issue. I've noticed with the kids, it is just so much easier to get something in their tummies before we leave because they're not as distracted. Like maybe they'll actually eat because they're just like in the 4 walls of the room versus in a theme park when they don't want to sit, they don't want to eat, and they're just excited to be there, which I get. The easiest, if you can, is going to be hopefully a mobile order situation while you're at resort. You can hop on your phone, order something quick. Your husband goes and picks it up like while you start getting the kids ready, or you have stuff already in your room that you can eat on the go that you had like delivered to your resort. So stuff like protein bars, bananas, muffins, you could even eat those like literally on the way to the bus. I get little chicken sausage situations that I can microwave. And if your room doesn't have a microwave, remember that you can request one. I've requested microwaves in studios that didn't have them already there, and I've always gotten one. I know that's very dependent on the resort and the availability of them, but I personally have always gotten one. So just something to keep in mind. Then once you're in the park, and again, with little kids, I wouldn't suggest waiting until you get to the parks to truly eat because you want to get on rides and take advantage of the low waits and all of that stuff. But for that quick, fun breakfast treat, usually the places I go to are in Magic Kingdom. We actually usually end up going to Friar's Nook a lot because the way that the morning goes, we're usually in Fantasyland, and I don't really want to backtrack to Sleepy Hollow. They're known for their waffles. They're good. We've gotten them. If it works out in our plans, great. But I really like Friar's Nook. They have mobile order. So usually when we're like hopping off Peter Pan or one of those Fantasyland rides, I'll make a quick order for a breakfast sandwich. I'm a big fan of the breakfast sandwich, I've come to realize with the kids, because I can kind of deconstruct it for what each kid wants. Like one kid can have some of the egg, the other kid can have a little bit of sausage, all of, you know how it is. Every kid likes something different. And everything comes with like tots on the side, which are always a hit. I can get a second coffee or a cold brew if I need to get it. I'm pretty sure they have a shaken Jamaican, which I'm a fan of because it's espresso. That's another episode for another day, just about coffee. But yeah, I like a Friar's Nook mobile order situation. And then Epcot, it kind of just depends on where we're coming from, the front entrance or the back entrance. Usually coming from the back entrance, we will go to the bakery in France. It is a madhouse, but the line does actually move quick. And then if we're coming from the front, we'll usually end up starting off with Soarin'. So I will go to Sunshine Seasons. They actually have a really good breakfast sandwich. And last time we got there too late and we were bummed about it. Hollywood Studios is definitely a little harder. The Mickey waffles are an easy go-to over at Fairfax by Tower of Terror in the front. They used to have the most amazing blueberry Mickey waffles. It was like the only place you could get them next door at Hollywood Scoops. RIP if you've had them. I mean, nobody's listening to this, but if Disney was listening, man, those waffles were so dang good and I wish they were still there. On the flip side, if you're starting off back in Galaxy's Edge, the Ronto wrap is good. I just don't get the cold brew from there. I don't know. It's like kind of trendy or viral, and I don't think it's a good coffee at all, but I do like the Ronto wrap. Animal Kingdom is always like easy peasy for us because 9 times out of 10, we go to Kusafari, probably not saying that right, bakery before hitting the safari. Again, I'm going to be getting a breakfast sandwich, and unlike the coffee in Galaxy's Edge, if they have the coconut iced coffee at Kusafari when you're there, you can ask for it a little less sweet. I actually really do like the iced coffee. The next question was geared towards Magic Kingdom. So she asked how to enter Magic Kingdom when you arrive very shortly before real opening and how to get past the big crowds and get in. So she's talking about, let's say the park opens at 9. What happens if you get there at like 8:50? I don't know. It's not a ton of crowds necessarily in this situation specifically because people aren't being held at the security. So you're not going to walk up and see a long line of people waiting to get in at 9 o'clock. Magic Kingdom has at that point already let all of the guests onto Main Street like an hour before that. So there's no like human beings being blocked at the gate because the park isn't open. Everyone has already gone through. So the lines are moving, which is a really good thing. Even if there's maybe like a surge of people because it's park opening, it's still going to be like flowing really quickly. So the most important thing is how efficiently you can get through security and scan into the park. Now, I don't know where she's coming from in this situation. There is a chance that maybe she has already gone through security. 9 times out of 10, most people are going through security once you arrive at Magic Kingdom. In that case, the most important thing is to be keeping your metal out of your bag. If you have a stroller, you're going to want everything metal, which is, you know, your umbrella, any like heavy duty cameras. If you have sunglass cases, I would honestly just not even bring them and just use those like soft ones or in like a safe pocket in your bag. Anything metal, Stanley cups, things like that, they should go in the stroller ideally. And then someone will take a bag through the metal detector and it won't be flagged because there's no metal in it. This keeps you out of a second security line where they will physically search your bag. Now, if you don't have a stroller, there's other things that you can do, like literally just hold the metal things. I think most of my listeners have a stroller, so remember that, because that line can get really annoyingly long. And I've been with people in like 2 scenarios where I go through seriously within like 5 seconds and they get stuck getting their bag checked. And it just stinks when there's a lot of people. Now, once you go through the bag security, that kind of security, you're going to go to the ticket gate where everyone has to show their ticket through their Magic Band or their phone or their physical Key to the World cards. The thing about Disney and Magic Kingdom is you are going to need to scan your finger, which is another conversation for another day. I'm not getting into fingerprints and all of the things about how this works, but just something to keep in mind. If you have little kids with you that are over 3, they also are going to need some type of finger that is connected to their ticket. Pretty much every cast member I've ever come across will tell you that you should use your finger. Either you or another adult that is with you should be tied to their ticket because their little fingers are really small and the scanners don't necessarily pick up on them and the kid forgets what finger they used. So something to remember, if it's your first day scanning in to your ticket, it's going to prompt you and the cast member will help you assign a fingerprint to their ticket. It only takes a second, but when you don't know that you have to do that, it can really hold up the line. So just be ready for that. It can be very quick. Everyone's going to be meandering down Main Street. Most people are going to head to the right towards Fantasyland. So if you're trying to avoid the park open crowd, so to speak, I would start the opposite way. I'm not saying that you have to do it that way, like no matter what, but just specifically, if you're trying to avoid as many people as possible, more people are definitely going to be going right. Next question is back to the rope drop subject. We're going to get a little bit more into this of how to really master a rope drop morning, what time to catch transportation. So if you're really trying to, again, do a true rope drop, meaning you want to be one of the first people in line for a ride when they start running. The most common ones that people want to rope drop are like Slinky Dog Dash in Hollywood Studios, Epcot, and kind of a mixed bag between like Remy's, Frozen, Test Track. In Magic Kingdom, we talked about Peter Pan and Seven Dwarfs. Animal Kingdom, and in Animal Kingdom, most people are going to Avatar Flight of Passage. So you have to, right off the bat, we're talking early. If you're speaking in terms of mastering a rope drop morning, there is truly like no hack or tip or anything that I have for you except getting there really early. Like the people that get there the earliest are the people that are going to be in the front/first in line. Now, my definition of mastering a rope drop means that I am chill, not racing against other people. I'm enjoying as many rides as possible without being in like a herd. All of those rides that I just mentioned where everyone else is going, I'm booking a lightning lane for that. So even if I want to be like the first in line, I am still not headed to those rides. I know that that is me being a brat and saying that I am just going to pay for lightning lanes. I don't want to do that. So if you're doing rope drop to avoid buying lightning lanes or spending extra money, which I truly understand, it really is just about getting there as early as possible. If you really want to take the guesswork out of that, where you stay can be really important too. Something to keep in mind of getting there really early for this rope drop is that most of the time you're going to be relying on something. You're going to be relying on the buses being on time, the monorail, the Skyliner, boat. I just want to remind you that things can happen. I have been on a bus that got lost. I have stayed at a monorail resort and the monorail went down, and I have missed rope dropping or early entry altogether. So to avoid that, I would consider where you're staying. Can I walk? Like, is there a resort where I can walk to Magic Kingdom or walk to Epcot and Hollywood Studios? And also, am I willing to maybe spend a little bit of extra money on booking an Uber or a minivan? I mean, again, there's traffic, but it is a little bit more dependable to get there super early for rope drop. But now we're kind of back to you could save that money and get lightning lanes instead. So it's kind of a wash. Now for Disney's transportation specifically, usually everything starts running an hour, maybe sometimes even like 90 minutes before early entry. Like if you're trying to be in the front of the pack, you want to be one of the first people in line for 7 doors or something like that. You want to be like in line at the gate an hour before early entry even starts. So if you want to leave 30 minutes to an hour to get somewhere, depending again on the transportation. If you're walking somewhere, it's going to be a lot faster than if you have to take a bus. Maybe that bus has multiple stops. So it really depends. If you have to go to the Ticket and Transportation Center at Magic Kingdom, you have to allow more time for that. Again, just get up really early. That is really the only way to do like a quote, true rope drop. And then someone asked me, do you or your family rope drop? We do and love it, but love our relaxed days too. I know I kind of already covered this, and the short answer is no. I have done it, and I will do it sometimes if I need to test something for my itineraries, because I am self-aware enough to know that people like to do a little bit more at Disney than we do in our family. Honestly, just like I think a lot faster as like human beings. I am just a slow-paced person, I think. But no, if I have lightning lanes, I don't personally see the point, again, just for my family, in rope dropping in the true sense of like if early entry starts at 8:30, I'm not going to show up at 7:30 and like wait in a line to get in to avoid a line that I already paid money to avoid not waiting in a line. Like that defeats the point of me spending that money. It would be a different conversation if I was on a mission to avoid lightning lanes, which like obviously I am not there yet. I do love the mornings. So like for Magic Kingdom in particular, I do try to get there as early as possible if I can. That's like the one park where I will not book like a late night the night before, because I'm like, okay, we have Magic Kingdom tomorrow. I would like to get a good night's sleep so we can wake up as early as possible and get out the door. There are lots of other things that I want to do, like maybe I want to get a picture in front of the castle or get a coffee and just kind of enjoy the vibes. I will get there for early entry, but I'm not, quote, rope dropping like we talked about. And the final question is perfect if you've got little kids, and that's the best use of early entry with littles. So she has a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. Would love thoughts on this for each park. This might sound like a total cop-out, but really the best use of early entry is to be efficient of all the things that we've talked about, like breakfast and security, but then also to know your priorities as a family. I'm going to be a little bit of a brat again and say that I don't think you need to cater necessarily to the kids or a toddler's favorite ride, but it could happen that way. Let's say your Park Days Magic Kingdom and you decided that for your family as a whole, that your 3 priority rides are Space Mountain, Haunted Mansion, and Peter Pan's Flight for like whatever different reasons. Now, Space Mountain, your kids might not be able to ride, like maybe unless the 4-year-old is super tall. So that doesn't sound like the best use of early entry with little kids, but there are things that are so good in the morning that you have to think about as a family as a whole to take advantage of, because you only have like that one morning, and once that morning's done, it's gone. The thing about the morning is that there is just less chance of things going wrong. If your husband's only thing that he wants to ride is Space Mountain, please try to work that into your early entry somehow, because rides can close. They can go down. And yes, rides can go down in the morning, but just between kids getting sick, emergencies, and weather, and anything that you can think of, just try to get the most important things out of the way in the morning. If you can imagine a Venn diagram type situation with like 2 bubbles and it meets in the middle, I want you to think of the things that are the biggest priority for you as a family. And then the other bubble are rides or things or shows that you can't get a lightning lane for, or maybe you can't do in the morning. So let's say for Epcot, for example, you get a lightning lane for, let's say, Remy's, Soarin', and Spaceship Earth, okay? Those are the ones that you were able to get lightning lanes for, and that's how you decided to work your plans. You don't have to worry about those because you have a lightning lane for it. You do not have to ride during early entry. You can't ride during early entry. And if they go down, your lightning lane is saved and you can go back. So those are like locked in. You don't have to worry about those. So think about the other rides that you don't have a lightning lane for. Which ones are the most priority for you as a family? Those are the ones that you want to hit during early entry first thing and get them out of the way in case anything goes wrong. Something to keep in mind when you have kids these ages during early entry is that it is always going to be more ride focused, which I think is a good thing because some characters won't be meeting during early entry. Shows aren't going to be running during early entry. It makes things a lot easier of just getting those really important rides out of the way. So that is your quick guide to mornings in the parks. I feel like that was a lot. Just what rope dropping looks like to early entry to breakfast options. And if you liked this question and answer format, come into the Broadcast channel on Instagram. I do little updates there and ask questions because I like hearing from you guys. So I'll keep pulling from these like real life park situation questions like these. I feel like they're really good to get into the nuance of planning because there are just so many different scenarios. Thanks for listening to today's episode, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode and it was helpful for you, it would mean the world to me if you'd write a quick review. Your reviews help more moms like you find the show, and I read every single one of them. Seriously, thank you in advance. You can find me on Instagram at Somewhere Worthwhile, and I'd love to hear from you there. DM me if you have any questions about this episode or what you'd like to see in future ones. Until then, keep planning for your next favorite memory, and I'll see you next time.